Hello and welcome to my video on Mufasa, the Lion King. Because, yeah, the anthropomorphic singing lions weren't enough of a giveaway that this was part of the Lion King franchise, so sure, let's shoehorn it into the title.
Gaming Cookie Guy
Entertainment.
Now, Mufasa, like any prequel to a remake of a beloved original animated film, had a tough task ahead of it. On a lore level, it needed to establish a new canon without overwriting what had come before. On a musical level, it had to contend with the masters Elton John and Hans Zimmer. On a character level, it had to deliver upon the origin of characters we already liked. And on a visual level, it had to be boring, just like the last live-action Lion King. But all of that culminates in a movie that it feels like scene to scene has to justify its own existence. Personally, I thought Mufasa was fine, and just fine. Like, it moved at such a clip that I never felt like I could latch onto these characters. Like, maybe Disney thought they'd be going off the goodwill of the other movies, like we already knew these characters, so they kind of could just brush over those. But I don't know. I feel like you have to earn some of that through this movie. And this problem to me is especially glaring right in the beginning of the movie, and not the beginning of the movie where they're setting up the framing device so they can get Timon and Pumbaa into the marketing materials. No, I mean the beginning of Mufasa's story, where in the span of like 5 minutes, he goes from presumably being orphaned to singing shoulder to shoulder about having a new brother and how exciting that is. Like, at least give us a second to mourn the loss of Keith David. I am begging you. He only got one song in this movie. What a tragedy. So that's one thing I'd like to accomplish with my rewrite, is start this movie in a slightly different direction and keep it going, mainly focused on the character of Taka, who would become Scar, because I feel like that's where the movie had the most potential and just didn't really deliver for me. And so with that in mind, my main goal centering around the transformation of Taka, I would like to present my version of Mufasa, the Lion King. So despite my little joke about the framing device, I actually think we can keep it here, maybe use it slightly less, but I think it works to see this story through the eyes of Kiara being told a story on a stormy night. Except instead of going from stormy night to drought, I want to keep that. I think it makes a lot more sense to set our story in a downpour. Because when I say the beginning of this movie felt very rushed, that includes the inciting incident. The storm that took Mufasa away from his home went from a drought, a wasteland, to a flash flood in a matter of seconds. It just took me out of the moment entirely. So instead, in my version, we will have young Mufasa in the rain with his parents complaining about how this rain never ends. This rainy season seems to go on, and he just wants to play in the sunlight again. Which prompts our great opening song, Malele, and his mother tells him with this weird sort of Disney clairvoyance that all Disney parents seem to have when something bad is going to go wrong, that if they ever get separated, they should meet in Malele. And at the time, we're not sure if that's a literal place or this allegory for heaven. I'm not sure if the character even knows what she is meaning, if it's literal or figurative. But that's what she's going to say, because she knows something's about to go down. And so instead of setting the flash flood at a watering hole to get a drink, we're going to have Mufasa and his parents out, and they are teaching him how to swim, because with the rivers rising as it is and the rain seemingly not letting up, this is a skill that this young cub is going to need to learn. And it's just in the nick of time, because at that moment, the dam overflows and finally breaks, and Mufasa is swept away, taken down one of the recently formed runoff rivers and taken into parts unknown, where he meets Taka. And I can't 100% say why I did not like Taka and Mufasa's first interaction in the original movie. It was something about this, hey, I have a secret, and the secret is you're about to be eaten alive by a crocodile. Like, hearing that come from a child, and not even one who's supposed to be like pure evil in this version of the movie. Like, Taka's supposed to be kind of like a good kid at this point. That's messed up. I didn't like that. Instead, I thought it would be fun to do something more akin to what they did in The Princess Bride, as Wesley is scaling the cliffs on his way to face off against Inigo Montoya. Wesley is doing something extremely strenuous and stressful, and Inigo's kind of just brushing it off like, he'll get here eventually, whatever. I'm actually a bit impatient for this interaction to happen. And so we have Mufasa just like grabbing onto anything floating, treading water for his dear life, just barely hanging on. And Taka's just kind of plodding alongside the river like, hey, I'm a prince. I'm the fastest guy. Hey, I'm Taka, by the way. Oh, you're Mufasa? Like, I'm so fast. You can't beat me. You think you can beat me in a race? All right, I'll help get you out of the water. And then we can race. Then I'll show you how cool I am.
Slow going? Look, I don't mean to be rude, but this is not as easy as it looks, so I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't distract me.
Sorry.
Thank you. I don't suppose you could have sped things up.
And so they fish Mufasa out of the water. They bring him to Obasi, and Obasi sets the terms for their big race. And this race is going to decide the rest of their lives. And so I think this is where my biggest change for the whole movie comes in. Because to me, in my head, what I thought Mufasa's whole goal, whole personality would be at this time in his life is getting back to his parents, finding his parents, leaving this pride of lions and going off, following the river, going forward to Malele. The last thing Mufasa should want to do is stay in one place. So it seemed odd to me that the prize for winning the race was staying with Taka. It seems way more likely that the prize to Mufasa would be being able to leave. And so that's the big change. If Mufasa loses this race, he is stuck there serving Taka. And yeah, instead of like in the original, Mufasa is going to lose this race because he has just spent who knows how long treading water, surviving this traumatic event. Taka is relatively easily able to beat him, and now Mufasa is in the last place he wants to be. He's stuck in the court of King Obasi, relegated to hunting with the females, and is now serving his quote-unquote new brother, who is just so happy to have a plaything that he gets to lord himself over. And yeah, this really changes the dynamics for the whole rest of the movie. So now the song I Always Wanted a Brother takes on a very different meaning as we kind of like Hakuna Matata ourselves through the years. This is our time skip song. So at the beginning of this song, Taka's like singing away like, I got a brother. I always wanted a brother. Yay. I just won. And now I'm forcing someone into subjugation. Mufasa does not sing the song back. And so throughout the song, as we see the two young cubs start to grow up, we see Mufasa always kind of looking for an exit, a way out, anything that'll give him a lead to his way home or to Malele. And Taka's always right there to cut him off. So there begins to form that resentment that slowly melts away over the course of the song into some form of acceptance. This is where Mufasa believes he has been placed in the circle of life. Finally, Mufasa might refer to Taka as his brother, but that's not really the dynamic they have. Mufasa is more servant than family, even if Taka doesn't realize that. And things presumably would have stayed like that all the way up until Kimba the White Lion, Kiros the Conqueror attacks, and Mufasa and Taka are able to escape. And for the first time in so long, Mufasa is kind of free. He's able to escape Taka, but Taka, using that silver tongue, is able to convince him to stick by him. Things will be different. They'll be equals. They'll do things as brothers. And it's kind of looking like that might be the case. This is the part of the movie where we see that relationship, what it could be, what it could have been if those power dynamics weren't so imbalanced all of their lives. Mufasa is teaching Taka to be a little more self-reliant. He's telling him things about the smells and flowers of home and what they might expect in Malele. They bring along a stray mandrill into their group named Rafiki. Things are going pretty well. That is until Sarabi shows up. As Mufasa, the more confident, he's been raised by his mother. He's been raised around women. He knows how to talk to Sarabi, not as someone pursuing her, but just as a friend, as an equal. Whereas Taka has no idea what to say to Sarabi. He comes off as very arrogant. At one point, Taka takes Mufasa aside and asks for his help in winning over Sarabi. And Mufasa, he's not necessarily interested. He's not competing with Taka for Sarabi's affection. But Mufasa tells him, hey, you've got to figure this out on your own. I'm no longer bound to you. I'm not your wingman. You got to talk to this girl. And so Taka does. But in the way Taka only knows how. This is the only way he knows how to communicate with people, is to manipulate them into liking him. He doesn't know how to get people to genuinely like him. He's never had to do that. That's not a skill he has learned. So he co-opts Mufasa's life, his history, what he wants, his dreams. Those couple scenes of them getting to know each other as brothers is being twisted so that Taka can manipulate Sarabi into liking him. And it gets even worse when Taka finds a way to take credit for saving Sarabi's life without Mufasa even knowing that that is what is going on. Again, I just want to reinforce that that's who Taka is. He is a manipulator. That's how he's been raised. He didn't become Scar overnight. He didn't just all of a sudden realize how to do these things. That's what he's been doing all his life. And so finally, Rafiki gets wind of what's going on and tells Mufasa, and Mufasa's had enough. Mufasa confronts Sarabi. They have this beautiful moment together. They sing the Tell Me It's You song, and they are now a couple. You can tell they have formed a kinship, and Taka has been cut out of this group. Then we see the flip side in the Brother Betrayed song, and this is truly the genesis of Scar, and we can see all the steps that led him to this. He's blaming Mufasa because he's not taking personal responsibility for his own actions. And in this moment, in this birth of who Scar would become, he hatches a plan. He realizes he's not strong enough to take out Mufasa and win over Sarabi. He's not strong enough to take out Kiros alone. He has to pit them against each other and hope he comes out on top of the rubble. And so we skip forward ahead in the movie towards the end. Mufasa at this point doesn't know that it was Taka who led Kiros to Malele. They haven't really seen Taki. He kind of went out on his own after the falling out over Sarabi. But Zazu has scouted the outer plains of the Pride Lands and sees that Kiros' forces are on his way. So Mufasa has to rally all of the prides, and just when it seems like no one's really going to be on his side, that's when Taka gets to have his hero moment. He gets to show up and pretend to be the savior of the Pride Lands. No, I will stand with Mufasa and I will defend this place against Kiros. And so we get our big action scene. It's the Pride Lands versus Kiros and his forces, and eventually it is narrowed down to Kiros versus Mufasa and Taka. And there's a big fight scene. Taka, we don't really know whose side he's on, whose side he wants to fight with and for, until eventually Taka takes a massive hit from Kiros defending Mufasa. He gets him right in the eye. This is how he earns his scar. Mufasa is now indebted to him for taking that hit, making that sacrifice, and opening up Kiros for Mufasa to take the final hit. And at this point, Taka kind of assumes the kingship is his. He's made his grand stand against this conquering force, and yet the people choose Mufasa over Taka. And this is pretty much where we leave things off for these characters. We have Mufasa thankful to Taka for helping him, taking a claw to the face on his behalf. In Mufasa's mind, God, Taka just saved his life. And for the first time, Mufasa feels like he really has a brother. He can call him that in earnest. But on the flip side, this is one of the lowest moments in Taka's life. He just took a massive blow. Literally, he is permanently scarred from this. He just watched his lifelong servant be crowned as his king before his very eyes after orchestrating what he thought was a foolproof plan. And he now has to just sit and wait and bide his time. And to add insult to injury, like literally insult to injury, in my version of this movie, Scar is not some insult, not some title of shame given to Taka for trying to overthrow Mufasa. No, it's an honorific. It's a name that King Mufasa bestows to his brother to make sure everyone remembers the sacrifice he made on behalf of the Pride Lands. Mufasa served under Taka, but as Scar, with Scar by his side, he thinks maybe, just maybe, they can finally be brothers because deep down, he has always wanted a brother. And that is my version of Mufasa, the Lion King. And I like to think this is a good version. I think it gets everyone in the right place. Like, sure, we never get to like Taka / Scar, but he's a villain. I don't think we need to like him. I just think we need to understand him. But what do you think? Did you like the original movie as it was written, or did you have a change in mind that you would have made? Please keep the conversation going down in the comments below. And if you did like the video, please like and subscribe for more. I'll see you then.